So what would you say is the single most important word in business?
I would probably have to go with creativity.
Yeah, I would definitely say that is one of them. I would have to go with innovation. And the four elements or essential elements that make up innovation would be creative vision, strategic execution, collaboration, and outside the box thinking. Now, if we look at, let's say, collaboration as an example, I can point to Apple. And Apple, you know, if you look at the commercial recently, they have partnered with YouTube and AT&T. Now, the partner between Apple and AT&T being the joint venture, and Apple and YouTube being the strategic alliance. You know, the problem in industry is that, you know, we don't see enough of that.
That's true. I have to agree. Why do you think that is, though?
You know, I think it's ego. I also think it could be greed, or both. But, you know, as a result, it certainly doesn't present a win-win outcome.
Okay. So basically you're saying people don't accept outside ideas enough. And that seems to be a problem. When you were mentioning earlier maverick innovators, how do you define that?
I would say that what makes up the maverick innovator is a pioneer or disruptor.
Okay.
You know, an example. Let's take disruptor as an example. I can point to, say, Craigslist. I mean, look at what they've done to empower consumers by, you know, shaking up the traditional industry and the complacency.
Basically, you're saying they challenge the status quo.
Challenge the status quo.
And that's what we're seeing all the time.
All the time.
You know, barriers being lifted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Barriers being lifted. Yeah. You can point to a recent result in December of last year, '07. There were 10 billion video views online. No, that was just for the month of December.
Wow. Wow. So there really is no stopping this trend.
No.
I mean, traditional status quo industries, I think, are starting to wake up.
It is exploding.
Yeah, it's exploding, and there's no stopping it. And I mean, what would you say? What's another example of a maverick innovator?
You know, I can look at mini clips. I don't know if you've heard of Club Penguin, for example.
Yeah.
Being bought out by Disney. You know, they certainly.
Was that a good purchase?
I think it was a great purchase.
Okay. What's another one?
Yahoo. I will say Yahoo and Google. Let's say. I want to kind of bring up the barriers that Yahoo presents as opposed to Google. And I think with Google, it's experience. And the reason why, I don't know if you remember, with Yahoo, Google tried approaching Yahoo with some of their advanced technology to the tune of $3 million. Now have you $3 million, and look at Google today.
Wow.
Now,
I think I remember that. I think I remember reading something about that basically all y'all had to do was buy them for $3 million.
Yeah. And you look at that and you go, gosh, for you know, they're certainly not the pioneers, but yeah, they're very innovative. And you know, I would say Google, for the most part, will welcome, you know, outside ideas as opposed to Yahoo.
And you know what? To me, it seems that a lot of good ideas come from, you know, people that had obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
And
a lot of
struggles.
creatives, yeah.
And you know, I mean, who do you think actually makes up most of the purchases in the U.S.?
Really, I would say women. Women
Yeah.
definitely would make up a majority of the transactions.
Okay, so basically, people need to figure out what motivates women to buy things, and
Yeah,
so I mean, can you come up with maybe another disruptor example?
Yeah, if we're going to talk about women purchasing, I could look to, I don't know if you've ever heard of Sarah Blakely, Spanx. This was kind of this new undergarment for women to help slim them, and I mean, it was phenomenal. But she had a lot of barriers ahead of her. You know, she was very creative in her approaches and so forth, but this was a male-dominated industry. I mean, she basically said, hey, you know, what do these men know about women undergarments and comfort and slimming and, you know, panty lines and all those things. And before you knew it, I mean, she's on the Oprah show. Celebrities are endorsing it.
Wow.
I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I read something about that. She started with like $5,000, and she was getting rejected by guys because they just didn't really get it.
They didn't get it, and they didn't think there was a need.
Okay.
You know, again, you go back to complacency.
Yeah.
You know, status quo. You know, and there you go. She disrupted that industry.
She carved out, I think it was like a couple $100 million a year business now.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just amazing.
And just to fulfill, you know, the needs of women. And, you know, today she's still in success. She does.
Wow. Wow. So, I mean, basically you were saying with Yahoo and Google, that really is a clear policy difference. In fact, I did an experiment, and I approached both companies actually. And Yahoo basically said, you know, if you're going to submit an idea, you know, basically make the assumption that it isn't protected.
Oh.
Whereas with Google, I submitted an idea to them, and I actually heard a response within a week from their New York office,
really?
wanting
Wow.
more information. Yeah, and I was just so impressed with that. And that's the thing, you know. I had a great idea for a radio show, and I approached one of the big national companies, and finally got through their barriers. And the answer that I got pretty quickly was, we don't really accept outside ideas. I mean, it wasn't.
That was Yahoo.
No. I'm talking about a completely different approach for a new radio show, which I know there's a huge need for. And they basically said, you know, we're not accepting any outside ideas at this time. And I just couldn't believe how they didn't understand with the internet, radio shows, the satellite, and all, you know, podcasts taking measurable market share. It just really kind of brought out what you said as far as a disruptor. And it takes place in so many different traditional industries. You know, the status quo, not accepting good outside ideas, and I see a huge need to challenge many different organizations in industry. You know, so you were mentioning, you know, what happened with the Club Penguin, Spanx, and that I'm seeing it firsthand. So I think what happens is, you know, a lot of good ideas that are innovative. You said, I think you mentioned one of the 4 elements is creative vision. Yeah. You know, and there are deliberate roadblocks in place. They're being lifted, as you mentioned, with the 10 billion videos. And that's a good thing. So, but it's interesting that you mentioned those 4. I'm going to have to agree with that. Outside the box thinking is another important one.
That's true. That's very true.
So, you know, it's safe to say that there is a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of room for disruptors to force change and take market share in many different industries. And that equates to billions in opportunity for those that know how to maneuver and do it effectively.
That's right. That's right. I agree.